10 rap acts. One government agency,
You lost and deserted. I'll play with your heart and won't show no.
a decade-long campaign that included surveillance files,
A rebel, so I rebel. Between bars, got me thinking like an animal.
threat lists, federal prosecutions, IRS audits, criminal designations, and in at least one case, a letter so badly miscalculated, it accidentally turned 4 guys from Compton into the most famous rap group in the country. These aren't rumors. These aren't Twitter theories. These are confirmed through Freedom of Information Act requests. Federal court records, declassified government files. The government came for hip-hop. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why they failed. Starting with number 10. Number 10, 2 Live Crew, the first rapper the federal government tried to put in prison for making music. Here's something they don't teach in school. The first artist in American history to face federal obscenity prosecution for a sound recording wasn't some rock band, wasn't some metal act. It was a rap group from Miami who made party music. And the case they fought and won is the reason artists can say what they want on a record today. By 1989, 2 Live Crew had already been selling records out of car trunks, building a following in Florida built entirely on bass and braggadocio. As Nasty as They Wanna Be came out with an explicit sticker. It wasn't hiding what it was. The Broward County Sheriff's Office got a court ruling declaring probable cause that the album was obscene. They sent notices to every record store in the county telling them to pull it.
I'll be blowing your mind, 'cause you're lame to the game.
Then a U.S. federal judge named Jose Gonzalez made it official. Saying the album was legally obscene, illegal to sell. And that's when it got real. A local record store owner named Charles Freeman sold a copy to an undercover cop 2 days later. He was arrested, charged.
7 digits said, yo, this Marquise, baby, are you down with it?
3 members of 2 Live Crew were arrested after a nightclub performance, handcuffed outside a Hollywood, Florida club at 3 in the morning for singing their own songs. Luther Campbell, who had already been sued by George Lucas for using the name Luke Skywalker and had to drop it, was staring down criminal obscenity charges while also fighting the federal government. But here's what happened next, and this is the part that changes everything. The trial came, and the jury, 6 people, 3 women over 60, only 1 black juror, heard testimony from Henry Louis Gates Jr., who argued the album was rooted in African-American oral tradition and had genuine artistic value. The jury deliberated, then they came back not guilty on every count. In 1992, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals overturned the obscenity ruling completely. The Supreme Court refused to hear the county's appeal and the legal precedent that rap music is protected speech, that the government cannot walk into a courtroom and call your album a crime, had to be won by Luther Campbell getting handcuffed in a parking lot at 3 in the morning. If you've ever heard a rap song with explicit content on the radio, on Spotify, anywhere, some part of that freedom runs through what 2 Live Crew went through in 1990, whether or not you ever spun Me So Horny in your life. Number 9, Public Enemy, the rap group that made the FBI nervous just by performing.
So I'm looking for the steal.
Let me tell you what the FBI saw when they looked at Public Enemy in 1988. They saw Chuck D, who openly aligned with Nation of Islam philosophy, rapping about systemic racism to platinum-selling audiences.
6 COs we got, we ought to put their head out. but I'll give them a chance cause
They saw the S1W, security of the first world, performing on stage in military fatigues, carrying fake Uzis, doing synchronized drill routines. They saw a rap group whose visual presentation looked like a paramilitary unit and whose audience was young, black, and paying close attention.
I got a letter from the government the other day. I opened and read it.
And they saw a group called Public Enemy, whose album was literally called "It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back." Now, here's what you have to understand about what was happening at the government level. COINTELPRO, the FBI's counterintelligence program that had been used to surveil, infiltrate, and neutralize organizations like the Black Panther Party, was officially shut down in 1971. But the institutional reflex didn't go away. It evolved.
Go and I'm serious. Call me delirious, but I'm still a captive.
The profile the FBI had been trained to flag: black political voice, large audience, anti-establishment message, organized structure. Public Enemy fitted on every axis.
And I can never be a veteran. On the strength of situations unreal, I got a...
The S1W weren't carrying real weapons. They were performing choreography, but the optics were enough to make government agencies take notice at exactly the moment Public Enemy were releasing Fight the Power for Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. And here's what's wild about this.
Black, it's high time to cut the leash. Freedom to get out to the ghetto. No sellout.
They were never charged with anything. No arrest, no prosecution, no formal action, just watching, just surveillance, just the weight of being monitored for making politically charged rap music. The government spent years watching a group that was, by almost any measure, the most important political voice in popular music.
Well, in my cell, how long has it been? They got me sitting in a state pen. I gotta...
And what did Public Enemy do while being watched? They made Fear of a Black Planet. They made He Got Game. They got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And whether that surveillance changed anything about what Chuck D said into a microphone, I'll let you decide.
I gave a warning. I wanted the governor, y'all, and plus the warden to know that I was...
Real talk. Only 9% of you watching this are actually subscribed. That hurts a little, not gonna lie. We spend hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life because this music deserves to be remembered. And you're here because you care about that too. So if these videos mean something to you, if you've ever said, damn, I didn't know that, or felt something while watching, just hit subscribe. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube to show this to more people who love this music like we do. Let's build this together. All right, back to the story. Number 8, Snoop Dogg. A murder charge, disappearing evidence, and Johnny Cochran.
Wow, creeping and crawling, Yiggy yes yo, Snoop Doggy Dogg in the house.
You know that feeling when someone is rising? When the streets already know the name before the mainstream catches up? That was Snoop Doggy Dogg in 1993. He'd been on Deep Cover. He was all over The Chronic.
Drink and watch your stank, cause Doggy's on the game. My bank goes on swole.
Doggy Style was coming. The anticipation was real. And then, on August 25th, 1993, the confrontation involving street gang members outside his Los Angeles apartment ended with a man named Philip Woldemariam shot dead. Snoop's bodyguard pulled the trigger. Snoop was in the car. Both were charged with murder.
5 on the 20s. It's like that, and as a matter of fact,
here's where the story gets complicated in ways that should make you uncomfortable. The trial took over 2 years to reach. Doggy Style, dropped in November 1993, went platinum before Christmas, sold over 800,000 copies in its first week, while its lead artist was under active murder prosecution.
I'm still on hit legit, now I'm on parole. Stroke with the dog.
Snoop Doggy Dogg was everywhere on the radio, everywhere on BET, with a murder charge hanging over him. That tension alone said something about the moment. Then the trial started, and the prosecution's case started falling apart.
I serve my case. Follow me, but you bet not slip, cause 9 tris ain't the get.
Woldemariam's bloody clothing evidence went missing while in LAPD custody. A bullet went missing. A shell casing. Critical physical evidence gone. These while in police possession. Johnny Cochran took the defense. Same Cochran who just walked O.J. Simpson out of a courtroom the year before.
And wave them all around like you just don't care. Yeah, roll up the
He leaned into the missing evidence hard. The self-defense argument held. In February 1996, Snoop and McKinley Lee were acquitted on all charges. But what I want you to sit with is this. The government spent 2.5 years pursuing a murder case against the most commercially successful young rapper alive. The evidence they needed was in their own possession, and it disappeared. And the acquittal only happened because the defense had the resources to fight it at the highest level. That's not justice working the way it's supposed to. That's luck and money intercepting a system that was moving in one direction.
Just throw your hands way up.
Number 7, the Notorious B.I.G. The FBI file that documented everything and prosecuted nothing. The Notorious B.I.G. was shot and killed in Los Angeles on March 9, 1997. He was 24 years old. He was driving away from a Vibe magazine party. Multiple witnesses were present. His car was hit by more than 10 rounds, and the case has never been solved. What we know from FBI files released under the Freedom of Information Act is something that should bother you if you sit with it long enough. The Bureau maintained a detailed file on Biggie, not just surveillance notes, but documented information about the conflicts surrounding Death Row Records, the East Coast-West Coast beef, and the criminal organizations that operated in the space where rap music and street life overlap. They had information. They had it before March 9, 1997, and after the murder, the federal investigation never produced a single arrest, no charges, no prosecution. The LAPD and the FBI each claimed jurisdiction issues. Information wasn't fully shared. A case that the government had specific and documented knowledge about went cold. Now contrast that with how actively the same agencies monitored rappers while they were alive. Surveillance files, FOIA releases, watch lists, criminal designation. The government had no problem building dossiers on living rappers whose music made them uncomfortable. But when the most commercially successful rapper on the East Coast was murdered on a public street with witnesses present, the machinery of justice found a way to do nothing. Christopher Wallace sold 10 million records before he turned 25. He left behind 2 kids, a catalog that still runs the culture, and a murder case that the government has spent almost 30 years not solving, and that still doesn't sit right with me. Number 6, Eazy-E, the extortion scheme the FBI watched but couldn't stop. The government wasn't coming for Eazy-E here. They were supposed to be protecting him. Around 1991, members of the Jewish Defense League, a militant political organization, began running a scheme targeting prominent rappers. The approach was always the same. They would contact an artist, claim to have intelligence that the artist's life was in danger, and offer protection in exchange for payment. It was extortion, and both Tupac and Eazy-E were targeted by it. The FBI opened an investigation. They documented the scheme. They put it in writing. Their own files confirmed that Eazy-E was approached, that the JDL claimed to know of threats against him, and that the operation was designed to extract money from rappers based on manufactured fear. Then the FBI's file acknowledges something quietly devastating. They were never able to find conclusive proof of the extortion or to connect the JDL operationally to anything they could prosecute. Eazy-E died on March 26, 1995, AIDS-related complications. He was 30 years old. He had announced his diagnosis just weeks before his death. What you're left with is a federal investigation that confirms someone was running a criminal scheme targeting a rapper, documented it thoroughly, and walked away without being able to act. The surveillance was real. The documentation was real. The outcome was nothing. And here's what I think about when I hear this story. The same government that built 95-page files on rap groups as criminal organizations, and we're getting to that, couldn't stop a documented extortion scheme targeting one of the genre's founders. That's the thing about this war. The government picked which battles to fight very carefully, and the choices they made said everything. Number 5, Tupac Shakur, the documented death threat the government never prosecuted.
It's out. You motherfuckers know what time it is. I don't even know why I'm on this track. Y'all niggas ain't even knowing my...
There's a document. It exists. You can request it under the Freedom of Information Act, the FBI's file on Tupac Shakur, and the core of it is this. The same Jewish Defense League that went after Eazy-E went after Tupac.
Biggie, remember when I used to let you sleep on the couch and beg a bitch to let you sleep in the house?
They contacted him. They claimed his life was in danger. They demanded money in exchange for protection. The FBI documented it. They investigated it. They described it in their own records as criminal extortion. And the JDL members who ran the scheme were never charged for what they did to Tupac. But the file doesn't stop there, because the FBI wasn't just tracking the extortion scheme. They were monitoring Tupac's public statements, his activism, his political commentary, his music's direct challenges to police brutality and systemic racism. The Bureau was tracking him with the same category of attention, the same COINTELPRO instinct they'd applied to black political voices for decades.
Now it's all about Versace. You copy my style. 5 shots couldn't drop me.
Tupac was shot in Las Vegas on September 7th, 1996. He died 6 days later. The FBI had an active file on him. They had documented that specific people had threatened his life. They had record of it. They did not prosecute those people before he was murdered. And after he was murdered, just like Biggie, no one was ever charged. The government spent enormous resources monitoring Tupac's music, his statements, his activism. The threat against his life was sitting in a federal document. And when he was killed at 25, the machinery that had been so active while he was speaking truth to power went quiet. Number 4, Ice Cube, the album that made governments on 2 continents want to silence one rapper. Death Certificate, 1991, Ice Cube's second solo album after leaving N.W.A. And if you were old enough to understand what was happening in music at that moment, if you were in the barbershop when that album came out, you remember what the conversation sounded like.
Left my homie's house.
Because this wasn't entertainment, this was a statement. Ice Cube had already left N.W.A. after what he described as being paid wrong. He'd already written No Vaseline, one of the most devastating tracks in rap history, aimed at the entire crew he built with.
Just waking up in the morning, gotta thank God. I don't know.
Now he had full creative control, full anger, and a microphone. Death Certificate went there in ways that made even people who respected him uncomfortable. There were explicit critiques of the Korean American merchant community in South Central Los Angeles.
Shake 'em up, shake 'em up, shake 'em up, shake 'em. Roll 'em in a circle of
harsh commentary about Jewish executives in the music business. Level of direct accusation that the mainstream music industry had simply never encountered before from a rap artist. And here's what happened next. Simultaneously, the Simon Wiesenthal Center formally protested.
Often been chirped out. Today was like one of those 5 dreams.
The NAACP weighed in. The National Korean American Grocers Association called for a response. Billboard magazine, the trade publication of the music industry, published an editorial titled Hate Rap and suggested retailers refuse to carry the album. British members of parliament debated banning Ice Cube from entering the UK. Korean American community leaders called for prosecution under hate crime statutes. Multiple governments, multiple industries, multiple communities, all reacting to one rapper from South Central Los Angeles at the same time.
And I'm coasting. Took another sip of the potion, hit the three-wheel motion.
The law enforcement monitoring that followed wasn't a single FBI file. It was the accumulated weight of every institution that felt threatened responding at once. Police departments coordinating ahead of his tour dates, government pressure on venues.
Called up the homies and I'm asking y'all, which part are y'all playing back?
Coordinated attention that didn't require a formal program to operate because the COINTELPRO instinct had been absorbed into the system. Ice Cube was never charged with anything. Death Certificate is now regarded as one of the most important rap albums ever recorded and sits in the Library of Congress. And the song Black Korea is still being debated in academic papers 30 years later.
Never see a berry flashing those high beams. No helicopter.
Number 3, Wu-Tang Clan, 9 men from Staten Island versus the full force of federal law enforcement.
Tight click and went all out. Catching keys from cross seas, rolling in there.
In 1999, the FBI opened a formal criminal investigation of the Wu-Tang Clan, not a surveillance file, not passive monitoring, a dedicated federal criminal investigation with specialized financial analysis resources deployed.
So I seek the old earth who explain working hard may help you maintain.
And I need you to understand what that means. The FAST unit, the FBI's Financial Analysis Strategic Targeting Team, had been referenced in a 1990 Senate subcommittee hearing on high-intensity drug trafficking in New York.
I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no.
It was designed to investigate major money laundering operations, organized crime, serious federal conspiracy. The FBI deployed it on Wu-Tang. The 95-page file released via FOIA in 2012 classified the Wu-Tang Clan under a 281F designation. You know what 281F means? Major criminal organization. The same classification applied to the Blood Street Gang. A federal agent literally filed a formal request to travel to Allentown, Pennsylvania to meet with the local FBI resident agency, and this is in the actual document, compare information relating to the drug business of the Blood Street Gang and the Wu-Tang Clan. The government was comparing them to a national criminal network, and then the NYPD formally requested the FBI pursue federal charges.
A man with the dream with plans to make cream was fail.
The Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, the same office that put away major Cosa Nostra figures, that prosecuted al-Qaeda terrorists after the '93 World Trade Center bombing, expressed willingness to seek prosecution. The investigation ran from 1999 until ODB died in November 2004, 5 years. No charges were ever filed. The federal government spent 5 years, 95 pages of documentation, and significant law enforcement resources. They compared 9 hip-hop artists from Staten Island to a street gang in official federal documents. They deployed financial investigation units designed for organized crime, and they found nothing they could take to court. If you've ever tried to explain to someone who wasn't in it why Wu-Tang meant what they meant, why Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers wasn't just music, but something that felt like a declaration. Maybe it's because somewhere in Washington, an FBI agent was reading their name in a criminal conspiracy file. The government saw something too.
Question our speed for cracks and weed. The combination made my eyes bleed.
Number 2, Ice-T. Number 2 on the FBI's national threat list for making a protest song.
Grooving like I see you doing. So stupid crack would just ruin you.
In 1992, Ice-T and his rock band Body Count released a song called Cop Killer. He'd written it in 1990, a full year before the Rodney King beating was caught on camera. He'd performed it live at the 1991 Lollapalooza Festival.
close, like with a microscope. I don't clean them up with no ivory soap. I leave them hard and pure.
The album Body Count hit stores on March 31st, 1992. On April 29th, 1992, the 4 officers who beat Rodney King were acquitted. Los Angeles erupted. 63 people died in the uprising. The city burned for 5 days.
Size up, you better wise up to the rap criminals. We're on the rise up. We're selling dope.
And suddenly, Cop Killer was the most politically dangerous song in America. The police organizations came first. The Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas launched a boycott of every Time Warner product they could identify. Within a week, police organizations across the country joined them. Then it escalated. President George H.W. Bush went on the record, without naming the song, calling it an example of media that glorifies killing law enforcement officers. This was a sitting president of the United States commenting on a rap metal song about police brutality during an election year.
Ice, Coolio colder than ever. Punk executioner, he pulled the lever.
Vice President Dan Quayle called for the album's removal, and then the FBI placed Ice-T, born Tracy Morrow, an Army veteran, a man with no conviction for violent crime, at number 2 on the national threat list. The IRS audited his taxes twice.
Man, you ain't never lied, man. This dope is all right, man. I got to get back.
His daughter was pulled out of school by agents who asked her if her father was involved with any paramilitary organizations. The minute the president says your name, Ice-T said later, the most serious background check of your life happens. He wants a dossier.
Typed in hard, I don't ask, the ice just Bogart. Sire Records puts me out with Warner Brothers.
On July 28th, Ice-T asked Warner Brothers to pull the song voluntarily, not because the government won, but because death threats against label employees had made the situation dangerous for people around him. The album was reissued without Cop Killer.
Like I knew you would, like I knew you could. And if you ain't cracked out, then I know you should be able to.
He parted ways with Warner shortly after. Ice-T went on to play a New York City police detective on Law & Order SVU for over 25 years. And Cop Killer, the song that put him on a federal threat list, was a protest song.
Because the sound I created on this wax is like a chemical, and the knowledge I give makes me.
It was never intended to be an instruction. It was a response to a reality the government didn't want to acknowledge. But the government responded the way governments respond, with lists, with audits, with questions asked to a child at her school.
On my world tour, I'm selling dope in each and every record store. I'm the kingpin window.
Number 1, N.W.A. How the FBI accidentally turned a regional rap group into a national phenomenon. I want you to think about a moment where someone in power tried to shut something down, and the act of trying to shut it down was the exact thing that made it explode, because that's what happened here. N.W.A. had dropped straight out of Compton in 1988. They were a West Coast regional act, known in the streets, known in California, not a national story yet. Then Milt Ollerich, the assistant director of the FBI's Office of Public Affairs, sat down at his desk and wrote a letter. He sent it to Priority Records, the label distributing N.W.A.'s music. The letter was a response to "Fuck the police." Ollerich wrote that the FBI took exception to music that encourages violence and disrespect for the law enforcement officer.
Tell them where you from. Straight out of Compton. Another crazy ass nigga.
He said the Bureau found the song irresponsible and implied the label should reconsider what it was releasing into the world. He didn't threaten legal action. He didn't outline consequences. He wrote a letter on FBI letterhead expressing displeasure. Priority Records immediately showed the letter to their artists, and then, whether by accident or calculation, the letter became public. Radio stations that had avoided the album started playing it. Journalists who'd ignored the group suddenly needed interviews. Teenagers in every state who had never heard of Compton went looking for Straight Outta Compton, specifically because the federal government had implied it was dangerous. Every record store in the country had the same sales conversation. You heard the FBI wrote a letter about this group? Police departments across the country sent formal notices to venues warning them that N.W.A was on the tour and that the show might cause unrest. They did this in advance of every tour date, which generated local news coverage in every market, which was essentially the most effective promotional campaign in the history of hip-hop, paid for entirely by law enforcement budgets. Sales exploded. The album that had been a West Coast regional record became a national cultural event. And here's the part that I still think about. Milt Ulrich was trying to protect law enforcement's image. He was trying to suppress a song. He was trying to use the authority of the FBI to make a record label think twice. Instead, he wrote N.W.A.'s most effective press release. He confirmed on official government stationery that these 4 men from Compton were saying something the most powerful law enforcement agency in the country didn't want anyone to hear. If you're nodding right now, you already know. There's no better marketing than the establishment telling you not to listen.